RTA, and UI UX design specialization. His approach to IT management emphasizes collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to continuous learning. He is passionate about leveraging technology to drive business success and is always seeking opportunities. And is always seeking opportunities to stay ahead of industry trends and advancement. Please, with a clapping ovation in the chat box, can we welcome Vincent Michael? Vincent, please, you can take it up from here.
All right. Thank you very much, Messi. Thank you very much, Transformation College, for having me here today. I'm very much excited to be here. I'm trying to share my video, but it's taking a while to come up. I believe you can all hear me.
Please be a bit louder. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to. Okay, thank you very much, Mercy. Thank you very much, everyone that is here. It's a pleasure to be here, and I trust we're going to have a very educative time. Can we all hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, all right. I'm trying to share my video, but okay, just hold on. Okay. Let me All right, I'll just share my screen since the video is not coming up. Okay, can we see my screen?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. So today we're looking or taking again documenting and managing requirements. I think this is chapter 10. So I believe we've been um, taught well from chapter 1 to 9. So I'm going to be I may not revisit every aspect, but I think and I believe this aspect is gonna solidify or cement some of the things we've learned already from the previous chapters. So the first thing I'll be looking at is defining what is business requirement, because this is a split subtopic: documenting and managing. So what is business or what are business requirements? Now, I believe we all know there are specific needs and objective of an organization that a project or a product or a service needs to fulfill. Now, the requirements define what the business wants to achieve and how it will achieve it, and also it checks if resources that are needed to achieve it are available or accessible. I will have several types of requirement. We have 10, but for the purpose of this um, teaching, we're going to be looking at four majorly, but we have up to 10, but we can still combine all into four major requirements. We have the functional requirements, we have the non-functional requirements, we have technical requirements, and we have operational requirements. Now, this chapter is splitted into two key elements. We have documenting the requirements that have been gathered. Now, like I said earlier, requirements are specific needs and objectives that an organization or a system or a business solution is supposed to fulfill. And it also defines um, what the business wants to achieve with that solution, how it would achieve it, and the resources that are needed to achieve it as well. Then the second aspect is looking at managing those requirements. We're looking at documenting the requirements. We're also looking at managing those requirements in such a way that they are communicated to stakeholders and can be traced through the business process. Now, documenting requirement involves capturing and recording the needs and the expectations of stakeholders for a project or a product or a solution. When you capture, record, and um, outline the expectations that stakeholders need or want from a project, we call that documenting, and it's a very vital aspect of um, business requirement. It has to be documented. We cannot overemphasize the importance because most projects tend to fail when they lack good documentation for the requirements. Now, we're going to be looking at the importance of documentation before we get into some other terms. The importance of documentation. Well, now we have a lot of quite a number of necessities, but I will just outline in three here for the purpose of this class. The first one is it enables communication within the project team and also provides a basis for ensuring that all related requirements are consistent. Now, when you need one of the key or essential reasons why you document requirements is for communication. If I want to relate a particular field or an outline or theme or something to my team, it's best done when there is a proper or a document available that speaks to those things. Number two, it also helps to provide or it provides business managers and staff. Now, these are the stakeholders, a firm basis for validating that the documentation accurately records what the solution needs to provide. Now, what this implies is when you have a proper documentation of your requirements, it helps the stakeholders to see and vet that okay, what the solution they are trying to get is actually being met. And the third one is that any further work to develop and test the business solutions, we use the documentation as input to this activity. So this is for posterity work. Subsequent solutions will still make use of that documentation. Now, these are three key importance for documentation of requirements. Now, because of time, we're moving to the next phase, which is the structure or requirement document. Requirement document. Um, Requirements document has to provide a basis for the solutions to be delivered to the organization. So it has to be well formed and very clear. Um, the business managers and staff, they will also have to review this documentation in order to ensure that the descriptions of the requirement reflect the need and the outline things that the analysts have correctly interpreted and also that they understood the information that is provided to them. Now, one of the key approaches to supporting the review of a document is to ensure that it is well structured. Um, the document has to provide. Hold on, please. I'm sorry, my network is. Okay. I said one of the key approaches to supporting the review of the documentation is to ensure that it is well structured. Now, what does it mean that the document needs to provide all the information that the reviewer would require in an easily understandable and digestible form? The document has to be clear, it has to be well understood, it has to be easily read and digestible. Now, beneath this page, we look at the contents of requirement document or what I will call the structure. The requirement document should contain the following sections as represented here. Now, it should have an introduction and a background. It should have a business process model. It should have a section that speaks of function, model. You should have a section that speaks to data model, function that speaks to requirements catalog, and the last section that speaks to the glossary. The intro on the background, business process models, function models, data models, requirements catalogs, and the glossary. So these are six major section or structure of a requirement document. Well, we're going to be looking at each of these section one after the other and understanding what they entail. So the first part, the introduction and the background. Introduction and the background. This section would set out a description of the business situation and the drivers for the project. It serves to clarify the objective and the scope of the work and ensure that all the stakeholders are well aware of the business context and that's for the requirement. This is the part that describes the business situation, the background. It also serves to clarify that the objective, the scope, the aim of the solution are well aware by um, the stakeholders and the business analysts. No, the next one speaks on business process models. Now, typically, requirements would involve changes in the business process. Now, in addition to this, any software solution that would support the business process has to speak to two areas. The first area has to be the to be process model. Now, if we're going to be changing an existing requirement or solution, it falls under this section, which we call it to be process model. It serves to or it speaks to new or innovative solution that is being modeled. So here it is being addressed. Now, if the requirement is what we call the as is process, this speaks to revisiting an existing requirement or solution. So the to be process speaks to um, new requirement that is to be worked on or to be created. Then the as is process speaks to revisiting existing solutions. The next one talks about the function models. These are diagrams that show functionality of the proposed software solution. And the types of diagrams that are used here are usually the context diagrams or use case diagrams. These models provide an excellent introduction to the functionality of the required solution because they give a complete overview and they also provide a means for structuring the requirement catalogs. Now, this part speaks to um, drafting or illustrating the solution in a diagrammatic um, format. So we use context diagrams or use case diagrams under this section. The next one speaks to the data model. The data model is relevant where the requirement document is to be defined at a level of detail such that it can be used to build the software solution or evaluate an off-the-shelf package. Now, this section speaks to the requirement that would lead to developing a software solution. So, a data model provides a far superior view of the data and also enables the analyst to consider the exact business rules and requirements to be met by the solution. So, if the solution would require software development, the data model is the aspect of the requirement or the document that speaks to that. So it has to be well um, detailed enough to enable the analyst to see that every requirement is met by this solution. The next one speaks to requirement catalogs. The information about each individual requirement should be documented here. Now, in this section, um, individual requirements are being documented here. The catalog is a key component for the audit trails of the requirement because it is a central repository of information relating to identification, cross-referencing, and source of the requirement. Now, this aspect speaks to repository of information that relates to identifying cross-referencing and also hinting on the source of this requirement. This just speaks to documenting the requirement for audit trail purposes. Then the last one here talks about the glossary of terms. Okay. Now, one of the important attributes of a requirement document is that it ensures or it's supposed to bring about a clear definition of the requirement so that anybody who reads it should be able to get an accurate understanding of whatever is being documented there. Now, terminologies can bring about this, what's the word again? Misunderstanding. Yeah. If, for example, I think I use a medical lab gets to document a business solution or a requirement now, it would be quite difficult for a non-medical staff or a non-medical personnel to understand some of the terms that are outlined in that requirement in document. So what the glossary of terms bring, or one of the advantage it brings, it brings or it gives that clarity to um, anybody that picks up that document to read. Now, there may be terms that a technical person or a fintech would use for their requirements in documents, and an auditor will not really understand. So, one of the areas they look out for is the glossary. It enables a clarity of definition and gives a better understanding of the document. So I wrote here a glossary of terms provide a central source of terminologies definition. The glossary may be created for just a particular project, or there may be an organization-wide glossary that can be used possibly in a reduced form. All right, we'll move to the next one that speaks to the requirement catalog. The requirement catalog. Okay, when requirements are initially sourced, they are not usually organized, and it's only once the requirement analysis takes place that they become structured or they get to be formed in an organized set. And there are a number of ways to organize this requirement, but a very fundamental approach would be the hierarchical approach. That will provide the most easy or the easiest structure for navigating through the requirements. Now, the hierarchy structures each requirement into four areas based on their types. We have the general, technical, functional, and the non-functional. So if you see beneath the text, there's a diagram here that speaks to how they are being segmented. Now, the business um, requirement has the general and the technical under it, and then the solution requirement has the functional and the non-functional under it. So we're going to be looking at um, details explaining how this can be documented or explaining deeper terms on how we can work with them. Before we go into that, there are also sub um, subcategories for each of these section. Under the okay, under the first section, general section, we have the business constraint, we have the business policies, we have the legal, branding, cultural, and the language. Under the technical section, we have the hardware, software, the interface, and the internet. Under the functional section, we have the data entry, data maintenance, uh, procedural and retrieval requirements. And under the non-functional, we have the performance, security, legal and access, backup and recovery, archiving and retention, maintainability, business continuity, availability, usability, and capacity. So we're going to be looking at more details on each of these sub. So the first one is the general requirements. Now, these are requirements that defines the business policies, the standards, and the needs. They're often very broad in scope and can have an impact on a number of different areas. Now, the subcategory under here, we have the business constraints. This aspect speaks to the budget, the time scale, and the resources. We have the business in policies that speaks to standards and decisions or rules. These policies and standards ensure that there's consistency of operation across the organization. The third one speaks to the legal. Now, these are the requirements that states relevant and legal constraints. Well, an example of this could be the um, Data Protection Act or the Data or Financial Services Act. Branding. Now, this the branding requirement speaks to the image and the style that is to be um, projected for the organization. Now, document that speaks to branding would be your brand guide, and I think yeah, that's one of the major documents I'm aware of, the brand guide. Now, when you're looking at the branding or the style guide, the factors such as the logos, the keywords, that if you're dealing with SEUs for your web system as well, the language and the color requirements, all this falls under the in branding. The style guide will just set out the look and the feel of the systems. A very, I think every okay. So every system has a particular brand. For example, when we see yellow and black, that would hint or connote MTN if you're in Nigeria or in West Africa. So the next one is the cultural requirement. Now, these are requirements that relate to the type of culture within the organization. They set out the vision for the system, the how customers are being approached, how staffs are being approached, how the management and the staff gets to relate. This just simply speaks to the cultural requirements within a system. And the next one goes to list out language requirement. Now, many organizations have specific language requirements because they operate across different international boundaries. But then this requirement also set out the language that is to be used in the organization and the ways of communicating with your customers. So if your um, should I say multilingual system, you could have more than one um, language. Then the last one here talks about business continuity. Business continuity requirement, and this speaks to the ability of an organization to continue to function even in the face of various threats, be it natural or or it could be man-made. Now, this requirement for this requirement is meant to state how quickly an organization should be operational, possibly in a limited way, following any incident, be it a threat or a business continuity incident. Now, business continuity requirement may include those that are designed to prevent disaster from affecting the organization to a great extent. For example, you could have duplicate installations of all your files and software solutions, just in case a disaster happens, probably the data loss or data theft or whatever it is that may seek to halt operations. Having a contingency plan falls under the business continuity requirement. Okay, that's for general requirements. Then we'll look at the technical requirements. Just a minute, please. Okay. The technical requirements are those that state technical policies and constraints that is to be adopted across the organization. Now, they apply to a range of change projects. So now, sub categories under these requirements are the hardware, software, interoperability, and the internet. Now, the hardware requirements are requirement that covers aspects such as the make and model of hardware requirement that is to be used in an organization. These requirements will cover the IT hardware, such as your laptops or your desktop computers or your tabs, but then they are not restricted to just the IT aspect only. They also speak to equipment that's every physical equipment that is being used within the um, within the system. It could be your printers, could be the fans. It also it stretches to the ACs and every physical or every hardware that functions within the organization. Number two talks about the software requirements. Now, this covers areas such as the operating system, software packages, networking, and communication software. So, the operating systems that are being used, be your Windows or your Mac, software packages could be your Microsoft Office or any other software that functions within the organization. The interoperability requirements, this aspect speaks to the standard for communicating between systems where they are required to exchange data. Now, this requirement uh, may also need to be specified where the system needs to communicate with other technical um, equipment such as your printer. The interfaces may be the system and the equipment operated within the a company or by external organizations. Then the internet requirement relates to technical policies or rules that governs the use of internet and web-enabled services within the organization. Okay, then we move to the functional requirements. The functional requirement are those that are set out that set out the feature that any solution should provide. The functional requirements are those that set out the features that any solution should provide. The features that appear in this requirement they're always incorporated into the IT system or the IT system solution, but most times it's not the case. Now, just a minute, please. So, we said here that the functional requirements, um, they also set out the feature that the solution should provide. Now, when we're investigating functional requirements, it can be useful to consider the four sub categories below: data entry, data maintenance, procedure, and retrieval requirements. We're going to be looking at it one after the other. Data entry, this is majorly concerned with the gathering and recording of data that is required in the solution. Data maintenance, now this handles data that is this data changes how it is being handled within the solution. Procedure requirement, now this one of the key sorts of mistakes in business is that some of these requirements are not well understood. So the this requirement needs to be clearly defined so that it can be adopted accurately within the solution. Now, techniques that we use to clearly outline this requirement would decision in tree making or decision in tables that can be used for um, documenting this requirement. Then the last one speaks to retrieval requirements. These requirements are concerned with requests about the data and may include the provision of maybe specified reports and responses. Just a minute, please. I think I have. All right, so, just a minute, please. I need to. Oh, okay. Nice. Can you hear me?
Yes, but at some point we didn't hear you.
Okay, just give me a minute, please. I'm coming. I need to fix something.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. Can we hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, okay. I'm going to go over the requirements again, starting from the general requirements. I guess I think I've been doing more of a theoretical approach. So let me bring it down to um, a practical or a more what's the word, easily understood term. I'm going to be sharing my screen again. Now, I may not touch every aspect, but in a bit to ensure that we get um, what I'm saying very clearly, I'm going to be relating it to, let's say, web development or web designing, how this can apply. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so we're back to general requirements. Like I said earlier, this if you check the previous slide under the requirements catalog. Now these are it's split in two categories. We have the business and the solution um, requirement. For the business, it speaks to I would say non-technical. Okay, we have the general and the technical aspect, and for the solution, we have the functional and the non-functional requirement. Um, the business side, budgets, business policies. Now, these are areas we may be familiar with if you're in the administrative section. You this has to do with the top management and all that, the business policies, the legal and the branding and business continuity, language, and the likes. Now, these aspects speaks to the requirements that defines the business policies and the standards. I think this part is quite self-explanatory, so I'm not going to be going too much into that. But speaking on the branding aspect, I think I touched that a little. That it's what helps to project the company's style and feel. We spoke about the style guide or the brand guide. This aspect speaks to the logos, the colors, the keyword, and the SEO. So if you're a web designer or a developer, a UI UX, these are key areas that you're gonna be looking into when creating a business solution for any system. If I want to make a design for MTN or let's say Airtel, for example, one of the key things I know about their branding factor is that their color is red. That's for Airtel. Then their font is sans serif. Now, I'm not going to go into this aspect majorly. Let's switch over to I think where okay, the hardware, the technical aspect. This part is also self. It's a little bit. It's not so difficult. This speaks to the technical policies and the constraint that is to be adopted in the organization. I said the hardware speaks to every physically available system. It could be your printer, your desktop, your fans, the air conditioners, everything that functions or that is being used to operate within the office falls under these categories. The software requirement speaks to the operating system and the software packaging that is being deployed. The interoperability requirement speaks to standards or means that we use to exchange data within the system. Then the internet requirement speaks to the policies that govern how we use the internet. What are the rules? What are the requirements? What are the things that we can do and cannot do with the internet? For example, are we allowed to play video games with on the internet while during office hours? Are we allowed to browse certain websites? Are we or are there restrictions onto how we use the internet the um, within within the system? My network is a bit glitching. Then the functional requirements. Now, this speaks to the features um, that the solution is supposed to provide. For example, if you're going to be building a web system solution, comment, I need to bring something up. Just a minute, please.
Hi, Vincent, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We didn't hear you.
I think it's my network. Just a minute, please.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm at the functional requirement. I said, okay, these are requirements that are set out to define the features that the business solution is supposed to provide. Let's use a web system again. For example, now I want um, I want a system that let's say I want to create an e-learning um, system. I want to set up a school, um, and I need a system or a website that speaks to administering in courses, taking exams, and issuing out certificates. Now, part of the requirements that we will look out for in this area is the data entry, data maintenance, the procedural requirements, and retrieval requirement. Now, I'm going to be breaking this down with a web system and elements now, a learning management system, and hello, can we hear me? Hello? Wow, my network is giving me issues. Mercy,
We can't
hello?
hear you. We
You
can't
are on
hear
and
you.
off,
No.
Vincent.
Sorry, my network is beginning to. Hey, I think
Sorry about that.
We can't see your screen again.
okay, I'm coming. Let me. Oh my. Just a minute, please. Trying to get. And can I rejoin the meeting again? It's not allowing me share my screen.
Okay, you can go off and then come back.
All right.
Yeah.
Roma, please make him co-host. Roma, make him co-host.
All right. Thank you very much, Mercy. I believe we can hear me now.
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you. Yes, we can. Please go ahead. Hello, Vincent, are you there?
Okay, I'm back. Please,
Welcome
can you
back.
confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome back.
Mercy, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. I can hear you.
Uh, okay, okay, all right. Let me try. I think I'm on my maximum volume here. Uh, okay,
Vincent,
let's
we can hear you. Please
let me
continue.
try and be as audible as I can. So we're looking at the functional requirements, and I said these are requirements that are that set out the features that the solution should provide. Now, they kind of describe the behaviors, functions, and the features that the system needs to meet. And I was given an example of um, a requirement, let's say a web system requirement that seeks to solve an e-learning solution. Now, I have a document here, but I think I can just. Please, can we still hear me? I need to be sure if I'm being heard. Okay, so like I said, I think I'm kind of lost here. Okay, let's go through with the slides first, then I'll catch up with my slide. We're looking at four sub in categories under this requirement. And number one is the data entry requirement. We have the data maintenance requirement. We have the procedure requirements, and we have the retrieval requirements. Now, when we talk about data entry, this speaks to how informations are being gathered, how gathered and also being recorded. So, if you want to create a system, data has to first of all be sourced. So, this speaks to how such information is sourced, gathered, and recorded in the solution. The second one speaks to data maintenance requirements, how these data are being used within the solution. So when you gather the data, how do you utilize them to meet or to meet the requirements within the solution? Number three speaks to procedure requirements, and this requirement clearly defines what. Get back on what can be adopted clearly within the solution. Now, the techniques within this requirement, like I said earlier, involves decision making, a table or tree that can be used in documenting this requirement. Retrieval requirement, this speaks to how data are being how data can be retrieved, or how the requests are being responded to. So I'm having a little bit of oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The network is not stable at my end. Um
Sorry about that, Vincent.
hello, can we still see my screen? It's kind of,
Your screen is gone.
it's not coming up.
Yes, we can't see your
Uh,
screen. Can you? Okay, because
I'm having some technical issues with my screen. It's not sharing some of the PDF I needed to share. Uh, is it back on now? Oh, this is
hello,
not doing as I
Vincent. Can you
expected.
hear me?
The network is not really giving me that um, easier
Okay.
route. Okay, on the non-functional requirement. I don't know if you guys heard me from the last slide.
Excuse
I'm
me,
speaking on the
Vincent. Can you
non-functional
hear me?
requirements now, and this speaks to how well the solution would operate, and also seeks to answer questions like how quickly it responds or how will it be used. So this more of a tests case requirement. Now, sub categories under this part speaks to the speed of performance, the level of security, access and permissions, access permissions and constraints, backup and recovery, archiving and retention, maintainability, usability, and capacity. So I'm going to be explaining all of these.
Hello, Vincent. If you can hear me, please
Back
let me
now.
just. Okay, Vincent, can you hear me
Let me
now?
talk. Yes, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, okay. We are sorry for your network interruptions. So we want to pause your session at the moment and take the second session while you work on your network. So you just handle the Tableau. How about
Okay.
that?
All right, there's no problem. Let me
Uh,
go off and reset my or switch over to a different one. I think it's
Okay, so
not
that's fine. Everyone, please, we are sorry for that interruptions. So without further waste of time, we will be taking the second session. All right? Give me a moment to share my screen. All right, so the next person who will be taking us on this session is none other than Justice Everest. He will be taking us on ISO 27032, talking about cyber security. Justice Everest is a cybersecurity analyst at Panoramic Synergy Enterprise. He has implemented and audited several security frameworks such as PCI, DSS, and Information Security Management System. He has led training on these frameworks and many more like ISO 27032 and NIST CSF. Please let's welcome Justice Everest in the chat box. Let's give him a clap as we welcome him to take it up. Justice, you are welcome. Please take it up from here.
All right, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, please just
Yes, we can hear
comment on
you
the
loud
chat
and
box.
clear.
Okay.
Welcome.
All right, that's great. That's great. Good morning. Good morning, Messi. Uh, hmm, that introduction was something else. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Well, there's really nothing more to the introduction that I want to say now. Just a cybersecurity analyst, and I've been able to implement one or two frameworks when it comes to cybersecurity, such as PCI 27001, NIST, and other popular ones. So in this training, we are just going to dive into what cybersecurity is, the fundamentals of cybersecurity, and cybersecurity concepts. We're going to look at the ISO family, and lastly, we are going to look at the NIST cybersecurity framework. And we try as much as possible to be on time, and so we'll not be flagged by our coordinators. And yeah, so let me share my screen. So just give me a second. Okay, just a minute. So let me share my screen. Messi, I hope I can share. Hope I have that right. Okay, think I can
Yes,
share.
you can share your screen. Please go ahead.
Right, right, right. Uh, please let me know if you can see my screen. Just comment on the chat box if you can see my screen.
Your screen can be
Yeah,
seen.
right, right. Okay. Um, so we're just going to have a more like an introductory class to cybersecurity, and and then take it up from there. And I hope that by the end of this training, we'll be able to have gotten enough information about what this cybersecurity that I'm pretty sure that most of us have been hearing, most of us that already have what's it called now, they already have idea into what we are going to be talking about. That's great. For those of us that are green, that are so green, yeah, I believe that if you pay rapt attention, you'll be able to get everything that we'll be talking about in this training. Right. So, sorry about that. Sorry, just give me a quick second, please. Hmm, okay, I'm still with you. Just give me a quick second. Let me get this thing right. Okay. Uh, oh, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Right. So, we're going to take a look at what we have for section one. So this training is going to be divided into three sections. So we're going to have section one, which talks about fundamental cybersecurity principles and concepts. We're going to talk about section two, which deals with ISO 27001 and relative ISO family, ISO 20000 family. Then lastly, we're going to talk about uh, a cybersecurity framework, which is NIST. I'm going to be looking at NIST 2.0. And yeah, I think with that, we should be able to wrap up trainings. And I really hope that we would have gotten a great deal of knowledge by then. So in this first section, we're going to be looking at what exactly is cyberspace, what cybercrime is, cybersecurity as a whole, what exactly is the difference between cybersecurity and information security. We'll be looking at the triads of cybersecurity, which is the confidentiality, the integrity, the availability. We'll be looking at the vulnerability and threats. We'll be looking at information risks, information security risks. And lastly, for this session, we'll be looking at the security control that we can implement to make sure that we are secured as possible. Right. So uh yeah. So what exactly is cyberspace? So when we hear cyber, what comes into our head? What exactly do we think about? So cyberspace is just a virtual environment where everything that you do on your computer, on your phone, or any internet enabled device is it's a space where all of this takes place. So if you're sending a WhatsApp message, you're uploading your picture on Facebook, on wherever you want to upload it on, or you are calling somebody over the internet, voice call technology that you are using over the internet. So you are making the use of the cyberspace. So cyberspace, cyberspace, we can say is defined as, it can be described as a virtual environment which does not exist in any physical form, but rather is a complex environment or space that that's that is resulted from the emergence of internet plus the people, organizations, and technology. All of these things come together to make cyberspace. So as we have cyberspace, we also have things that operate in this cyberspace. So we call those technologies or applications the cyberspace application service. So cyberspace application service are the services that can be provided over the cyberspace, like your video call is a cyberspace application service. So any other technology that can be serviced over the internet is a cyberspace application service. So what exactly does cyberspace bring together for us? So you know that with the use of cyberspace, from what I just explained, with the use of cyberspace, you are able to tie your software. So let's take WhatsApp as an example. You have your WhatsApp software on your phone. You have the ISP, the body that provide the internet space, the body that provides internet connection. So we have like MTN or any of those ISPs, and it can be MTN, can be One, you go whatever. So you have those people. Then you have your ICT devices, which could be your laptop, your phone, your tablet, anything like that. And you have so so far we've been able to tie WhatsApp to your IoT, to sorry, WhatsApp to your internet provider, to your device, the ICT device that you're using. Then we'll talk about Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is just basically anything that can communicate over the internet. So it doesn't have to be a regular computer. It doesn't have to be a laptop. If your if your blender in your house, if you can control your blender in your house over the internet, therefore that blender will have an IP address to for you to be able to communicate with it, which automatically makes the blender an IoT. So, and lastly, it brings together people. So just like as WhatsApp, as the example that we're using, which is WhatsApp. So it helps you communicate with people. So this is just a limited edition of what cyberspace can bring together. So you have software, you have internet providers, you have devices, you have IoTs, and you have people. So there are so many other things that, okay, before we jump into cybercrime, there are so many other things that cyberspace can bring together. But just for the sake of this, or for the scope of this training, I think we should just limit it to these five things. So moving further, if we have a space, therefore we are going to have people that will abuse the space. Just like when a country is being set up, nobody is going to be saying that yes, this country, we envisage that nobody is going to be rude, or nobody is going to commit a crime, or nobody is going, as long as there is provision, there will always be abuse. So somebody will always abuse something that is being provided. So that is why when a country is being run, always be a crime. There'll always be a crime that will be committed. So here we have the crimes that can be committed over the cyberspace. We classified it as cyber crimes. Therefore, this is when someone tries to launch an attack on another person. So attack could be subtle attacks, it could be very loud attacks, it could be very conspicuous attacks rather. So uh, it could be anything. So if somebody excuse me, if somebody was able to get your password from wherever, and log into whatever accounts that you have, or log into any application that you have, uh, instead of without your knowledge, it is a crime. So uh, it could be it could be as subtle as creating an account that is meant to impersonate another person. It could be as loud as ransomware attack, where your data is encrypted, and if you don't pay a certain kind of money, it will not be decrypted. So you just say bye bye to that particular data. So it could be anything. So we classify cybercrime as any loss of intellectual property or customer information over the internet. So any of those things can be classified as a cyber crime. So now see that we cannot say now in an organization, that you have files, you have fiat files like paper files, and somebody gets intercepts the file and maybe learns what is on the file and misuse it. That is not a cybercrime, because of it. Cyber crimes are targeted towards electronic assets, and it has to happen over the internet for it to be considered as a cyber crime. So now, since we have the crime, how do we now fight the crime? So we fight the crime through the use of functionalities of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity, we can say that it's a collection of tools, policies, security concepts, security safeguards, guidelines, risk assessments, actions, trainings, best practices, all of those grammars, uh, just to protect our cyber environment and our user assets. So all of this grammar just boils down to one thing: we are trying to safeguard our assets. Simple and short. So any practice that you use to safeguard yourself over the internet is regarded as cybersecurity. So yes, that we know that when we talk about cybersecurity, we talk about regulations, especially when we talk about organizational cybersecurity. We talk about regulations, we talk about policies, talk about utilization of tools, talk about risks assessments, and all of that. But cybersecurity can also apply to you as a person, and apply to you as a person in your everyday life. When you're in BRT and you want to send somebody money, want to send your sibling money, and someone is standing behind you, there is the method that you use to hide your login credentials is considered cybersecurity, because you are trying to avoid shoulder surfing. So some what I mean by shoulder surfing is someone looking over your shoulder to get your credentials, or you are trying to avoid somebody trying even knowing some details about you that you don't want them to know, like how much money you have in your account, because that could make you a target. So if somebody is standing behind you and the person has malicious thoughts, and you open up your bank app and you see that, oh, this person has great amount of money in his account, the person obviously becomes a target. So you become a target that maybe they follow you to where you're going and maybe collect your phone and maybe force you to open it up, transfer some money. It's a crime. And because of you were not vigilant enough, your security posture was not strong enough, and such thing happened to you. So that's just an example of cybersecurity as a person. So when we talk about organizational cybersecurity, we talk about utilization of tools and concepts. We talk about penetration testing. We talk about network security, making sure that no ports are open, unused ports are blocked, that regular ports are only open when they need to be used, and all of that. So you talk about web application security, talk about the implementation of firewalls, and every other thing that just the whole game to it is just to make your data safe. So cybersecurity involves the protection of assets from threats, mostly related to malicious or other human activities. So I think we've explained this. So in making sure that your assets are protected, if if you are not using your if you're using a transparent phone pack, and you have a habit of putting your ATM card at the back of your phone, inside your phone pack to place your phone on top, maybe because of safeguard. You don't want to lose your ATM card, and you bring, and somebody is able to read your PAN from it. That's those 15 digits from it. You are obviously exposing yourself to unnecessary attack. So that could also be an application of cybersecurity to a person. So all of those little guidelines can help you safeguard your assets. So now, um, when we talk about cybersecurity is just is just or how do we say it now? It's just something that it's inside, is a body that is inside a body. I think that that explains it. It's a body that is inside the body. So the entire, whenever you talk about security of information, you're talking about the entire thing that's called information. Just like if you can remember back then in maybe primary school, that the introduction to computer, they will tell you, oh, okay, what is information? It says information is a processed data. So as long as you have information, whether uh, whether it's physical or digital information, whatever information it is, as long as you have information, there is a need to protect it. So, if for those of us that deal with sensitive customer data, maybe in the bank or maybe in schools, whatever, maybe hospital, and you deal with paperwork all the time, properly filing those paper, making sure that nothing sensitive is left on your table when you're not seated on your table, is actually very, very important. So let me get my, I think I can get a pointer. So this is cybercrime, yeah. So when cybercrime interfaces with any kind of security, we get cyber safety. So um the main body is called information security, just like I said. Information security is information security. And digital information. So information security is information security. Yes, in a way, but it has to be information security of digital assets, digital information. So here, still under information security, we have application security. So application security is basically talking about, yes, you guessed it, the security of your applications. So if you're a web developer, or you are an application developer on this call, you should know that, okay, there should be some security details you need to put into your website. Something like not somebody not being able to guess, someone not being able to guess password, putting rate limits on your website. So maybe after 2 or 3 tries of a wrong password, the website automatically shuts the person out for some time, so to prevent brute force attack and all of those kind of attacks. So we also have network security, which we've talked about. So network security is making sure that you don't have a man in the middle in your network. So you have your switches, your routers, your cables, your Wi-Fi, everything that you have has to be fed through a firewall. So there has to be when I mean firewall, I mean like a man at the gate that allows certain kind of traffic to come into your environment, and certain kind of traffic should be bounced off. So you have internet security. Internet security is mainly talking about what kind of sites internet security can be in form of web filtering, can be in form of web filtering. So knowing what kind of sites that can be visited around, as long as that security is coming from your environment, traffic is coming from your environment. Just knowing what kind of traffic that that comes off from your environment, and what type of activities can be performed on the internet using your environment. That is in a brief explanation. That is what infrastructure protection is. Just a protection, directed protection against your data as a whole. So your data has to be is the so any form of method that you use in protecting those critical data, it comes under critical information infrastructure protection. So now, anyway, I think we've talked about this. Uh, Information security, just as you said, that information security is a protection of both the physical and the digital assets, and this can be achieved by implementing certain sets of controls, which could be policies, processes, procedures, and structures, organizational structures, software and hardware functions. So organizational structures, like you need to lock your laptop or your workstation before you leave, before you get up from your decks. So failure to do that will maybe will incur a penalty. That could be an organizational policy, which will be inducted into the structure of the organization. Something like maybe software could be using token to log in into environment. So using a randomized token to log in, it could just be a software and hardware function and all of that. So these controls, when they are established, because uh, I'll tell you for a fact that many Nigerian, not just Nigerian, many organizations, they are experts in coming up with policies, but most of them are not monitored. Most of them are not reviewed. So making sure that these policies are reviewed, are monitored and reviewed when necessary is actually very, very important. So talking about the triad, triad of information security, as long as these three things are present, therefore your data is secured, as long as these three things are present. So what are these three things? We're talking about confidentiality, we're talking about integrity, we're talking about availability. So what does it mean for something to be confidential? When we say something is confidential, we're talking about making sure that a particular kind of information is not accessible to everybody. So you work in an organization that have classification of documents. So you have internal documents, you have secret documents, you have top secret documents, and all of those kind of documents. So internal documents can be seen by everybody in the organization, just that it cannot leave the organization. So you cannot tag that um, document as an attachment to a mail that is leaving the organization. So when we talk about secrets, so secrets has to be viewed by a certain kind of people. Sorry, Mercy, can you hear me?
Loud and
Hello,
clear.
Mercy, are you
I
there?
can hear you.
Yeah, Mercy. Yeah. Can I request for 2 minutes? 2 minutes, 2 minutes, please.
Okay,
Let me
please.
set something right.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Yeah, please. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Please give me. Hello, can everybody hear me? Mercy, can you hear me? Hello, Mercy, can you hear me? Please, if you can hear me, can you just put on the chat that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. All right. Okay. That's great. That's great. Okay. So please forgive me. I just needed to put something right. Let's continue, please. Right. Hope you can see my screen though. Can you see my screen? Mercy, can you see my screen? Or should I reshare?
Please reshare.
No.
No, you have to reshare.
Okay. Let me right. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you can see my screen now?
very well.
Right. Yeah. All right. So just like as I was saying, confidentiality. So this is making sure that your protected and sensitive documents remain protected by limiting accessibility to only authorized individual. So this practice will help you safeguard uh, the information in the document from being exposed, and also it's making sure that the security methods to are in place to enable authorized people to act from you are trying to implement confidentiality, and the people that are supposed to see the documents can't see them. So that is also something to consider. So integrity is making sure that the document is not modified. So I think uh, Microsoft 365 is helping with that. So Microsoft 365 has version control, version history, and you also see who made the last addition to a particular the last edit to a particular file. So making sure that your data is complete, is accurate, is authentic, and free from any form of unauthorized edits is what we talk about. Is what we talk about when we talk about integrity. So if you are sending a payslip as a mail to that what you sent is what they receive. So it will not be a case of you sent something and they receive something else. So that's making sure that that is just what we have to consider when we are implementing integrity. Then availability, when we say availability, what we are trying to achieve there is making sure that the people that need the data that they need for work have what they need for that particular work. So if I need use employee data to carry out my daily activity, I should be able to have access to employee data for my daily activity. So making sure that information is accessible now, not just accessible for everybody, for the people that are authorized to see those data, making sure that they are able to see those data when they are able to see the data, and making sure that they cannot see any other data aside what they need to see. So that's when we now talk about just in time procedures and um and what's the other one, and we have just in time and making sure that uh, what you need to see is just what you have to see. So you're not just like I need employee data, I will not go from employee data to maybe employee contracts or something like that, just a stipulation though. So making sure that you just have you can only see what you need to see for that particular work. We can also tag that under availability. So vulnerabilities, what exactly are vulnerabilities? So when someone says, oh, this thing is a vulnerability, all we just all we're just trying to say is that this is a weakness. It's a weakness of an asset, it's a weakness of a control, it's a weakness of a system. So when there is a weakness in a system, we can say that that particular weakness is a vulnerability. So it makes the system susceptible to attacks. So that is what we talk about when we say vulnerability. So for us to have vulnerability, we have to have a way of finding out what these vulnerabilities are. So that's why we now have vulnerability assessments. So vulnerability assessments are just any form of process that is continuous. It's not just a one-time thing, that is continuous, to be able to uncover vulnerabilities in systems and processes and all of that. So for us to be able to apply patches in applications, we have to know what we apply the patches to. So, and also we need to know what will be the result of these patches when we apply apply them. So all of those things can be gotten when we do a vulnerability assessment. So now, speaking about vulnerabilities, so we have different kind of vulnerabilities in different sections of IT. So we have when we talk about hardware, we can say that insufficient maintenance could be a vulnerability. Lack of periodic replacement of faulty hardware could also be a vulnerability. So for software, which I'm pretty sure that most of us on this call, maybe not most of us, but some of us on this call are guilty of, is not being able to install the latest software of the application or the OS that we are using. So some of us that when we see that we have an when we see that we have a software update, we'll just be like, this software update again. I'll do it later. That opens up a that opens up a door for an attacker to actually do what they need to do and get away with it. Because an for a vendor or for a service provider to tell you, oh, okay, we encountered this problem, in our application, and we decided to create an update. So you should do the update so you can be able to have a better experience with the application. And you'll be like, no, this update is very maybe the size is big. I don't have data, or I don't have space in my device, or all of those. So and tomorrow you just wake up one morning and boom, you are seeing that your phone cannot boot, or something like that. That's worst case scenario though. Yeah, and everybody's screaming and shouting. Well, when we talk about network, we talk about having a single point of failure kind of network. So you have a flat network. What I mean by a flat network is that there is just one, or in topology of the network, you just have one one uh, one chain of communication, just one particular cable coming from the router to the switch, and from there to everybody. So if something happens to that communication from the router to the switch, everybody is out of the network. So we can use that to explain single point of failure. Personnel will have insufficient security training. When you tell people, oh, when you receive a mail from someone you don't know, even if it's someone you know, verify the attachments before you download it into your system. And some people don't know about that. Some people get on the call with people they don't know, claiming they're from maybe one service provider or the other, and tell you, oh, okay, we need access into this system, because of if you don't give us access into the system, management of your organization will come after you, or we are running an update and we see that your system is not compliant. Can you give us your password to your system and all of that? So because of people, some people are not sufficiently trained in this in this cybersecurity, they can just be, oh, my password is 12345, and using very simple passwords, like, oh, some people, their password is password, or their password is their name, or their password is maybe password, they now change the A to at and say, oh, my password is very strong, or maybe their password is password 1234, or their password is pass then 123, then you have word, like all of those easy to get password. Then you know that you are actually in for, you are just at the mercy of of an attacker. Then you have, when we talk about sites, we have about unstable power grid, just as we have in Nigeria now. So so some of us that are dependent on the power holding companies of Nigeria, you can just see, sometimes they'll just stay a whole week, a whole even a whole month without giving lights, and you know that can be disastrous, and all that other types of vulnerability. So speaking to, we have vulnerability, there has to be something that can act on that vulnerability, which is now what? Threat. So threat is any potential, is anything that can cause potential harm to a system through a vulnerability. So if you have a phone, let's say you have an iPhone, and or you have an Android, and you have a software update, and you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, and maybe that night there is an attacker on the network that you are on, and that attacker has seen that, oh, Apple or Samsung or whoever has released an update, and this is what they found to be wrong with the last update that they did. Okay, how am I going to, I'm very sure that, okay, as they released it this night, let me get some people that still have the old OS and compromise their device, maybe make it a botnet for maybe a distributed denial of service attack or anything like that. Then you're obviously at the mercy of that particular attacker at that particular time. So we have threats to personal network, personal assets rather. So we have something like, if if you're if you had someone that puts your life on social media, or you're going to this restaurant, you're snapping picture, you're putting it there, or you went to this church or this mosque, and the people treated you nice, you put it there. Your sister just gave birth to a bouncing baby boy, you put it on network, on your social media. Your life is basically on your social media, so somebody that goes to your social media account can actually make out a profile of you. So they can make out a profile of you and steal that profile, steal your identity, maybe use that, create an alternate, what's it called now, social media account, put up your pictures there, behave the same way you're behaving, have beautiful write-ups that you normally would write, and use it to maybe lure people that to do some kind of things, maybe to send money to some kind of account, impersonating you and all of those things. So making sure that your identity, I can't say this enough, making sure that your identity on the internet is as safe as it needs to be. It's not everything that needs to be out there. So yeah, this training is cybersecurity training, but I'll also tell you, as someone that has been doing one or two things for the past couple of years, there are some things that you will see on the internet that are really, really appalling, because this person just pouring out his life. So anything you see somebody snapping picture with their IDs, their official IDs, or snapping picture that show your passport numbers, passport details, or maybe, okay, somebody got a visa maybe to an exotic place and you're traveling, you take a picture of yourself and you don't know that maybe your flight ticket number is showing, your, like, something like that, and you put it up on the internet, and somebody sees it and compromise it within seconds. And maybe you might think, oh well, I've booked the ticket, is I've booked the ticket. You don't know whether the control system is compromised, and they can assign your seat to someone else, and you are left stranded at the airport. So all of those things, let's just be very, very careful about what we put out on the internet and who can see what we put out on the internet. So threats to organizational assets, we can say websites defacement, although yeah, it was this week that GT had their domain name problem because of they didn't renew their domain license on time. So the domain controller actually yanked them off service, and that's why for a couple of hours nobody could reach GT website. So all of those things. So let's say there was an attacker that has that particular domain name waiting for GT to, okay, as GT has done this now, everybody's eye is now on GT. Okay, maybe maybe the default next year, and there will be somebody that's made a copy of GT app GT website, just waiting for the subscription of GT's website license to expire, and immediately that license expires, the person buys that domain name exactly gtb.com and launches it. Somebody that is somewhere might not even suspect it. He logs into gtb.com, and instead of the legitimate GTB website to be showing, it's now an attacker's GTB website. And you now go and say, okay, you want to do internet banking, you type in your credentials, your credit card credentials, and make some kind of transactions, and the person now has a copy of your credentials. Or maybe when you are not suspecting, person moves out money from your account, and all of those things is possible. So having domain name theft just by cyber squatters, and financial report breach financial report breach, having your somebody being able to, just like Unity and Providence Bank, they are trying to merge right now. So somebody uh, being able to interject into the organizational environment and steal their books. So being able to know, okay, this is what this person has, this is what this person has, okay, makes it public. And some people might see some things that would deter them from having an account with with Providence, or having an account with um, Unity, or anything like that. Then unauthorized access to sensitive information somewhere like hospitals. Although Nigerian hospitals now, some of them are now becoming very, very aware of how sensitive the details of what they collect from their patients are. But some hospitals, they don't even know that, okay, you come to the hospital and those data they take from you are actually very valuable, because somebody can have something and decide not to tell anybody, and the hospital gets compromised, and that medical details is released online, and everybody now knows, oh, this person actually has cancer, oh, this person actually, and before you know it, everybody is trying to do damage control. So making sure that you treat all vulnerability that is raised in vulnerability assessment, so threat actors cannot have access to them. Right. So the kind of threats that can occur, um, uh, in some places, you have damage, physical damages, you have fire, water, like normal things. For natural events, you can. If you live on the island in Lagos, you know that natural events, flood is one of your biggest enemy, because it can happen overnight. So you have other things, disturbance to radiation for people that work in, maybe people that work in telecommunication, or companies that, oh, you know that you are hit with radiation every day, so you have to cover up that vulnerability by wearing maybe a radiation repellent clothing and all of those things. So risk. So information security risk can be addressed in ISO 27000. So we have ISO 27000 clause 3 0.57. So this is where you have residual risk. So whenever we hear residual risk, we talk about the risk that still maintains after you've treated the type of risk that you can treat. So let's take a look at a very generic example. You are in BRT, you are sitting down, you want to make a transfer to maybe a sibling, and someone is standing behind you, and you know that if you open your phone, there is a possibility that this person can actually see what is going on in your phone. So you try to turn away from the person, maybe face the window. You've eliminated that risk of the person seeing your credential. But how about somebody standing outside of the BRT? What if the person, okay, what if the BRT is not moving and somebody is standing directly outside of the BRT, peeping through the window? The person still could see your credentials. So that person now is now called a residual risk. So the risk treatment can never be 100%. There's always a risk that is there even after treatment. So yes, we know that when we say risk, all we are talking about is an uncertainty, a probability that an event can happen, and that event will have to have an impact. So risk can be measured through the likelihood of it happening, and also through the impact or that it will um, accrue when something like that happens. So can also talk about risk acceptance. So risk acceptance is when maybe you see, oh, I'm already inside the BRT. So the person that is standing outside, even if the person sees the password and everything, I'm already inside the BRT. The person cannot come and collect my phone from me. Something like that. You've accepted that risk. Oh, okay. Whatever happens, I can shoulder the loss. That is acceptance of risk. So there are other kinds of risk treatments. You can decide to transfer the risk, and decide to transfer the risk to another organization. Um, this is where organizations get third party vendors to maybe undertake processes for them and all of those kind of things. You can avoid the risks totally. Okay, coming back to our scenario of you being in a BRT, so you can avoid the risk totally by saying, okay, when I get to where I'm going to, I'll make this transfer. I take your phone, you put it back inside your bag. So that is total avoidance of risk. So yeah, and you can also um you can, okay, we've spoken about um accepting the risk. You can transfer the risk, you can avoid the risk. So that is ways of, or you can actually mitigate the risk. So you can mitigate the risk and say, okay, this person is standing here and another person is standing outside. Okay, let me move to a different location and try to do this transfer. So in that scenario, you have mitigated that particular risk. So another thing is risk analysis. So risk analysis is a process of comprehending the type of risks that you are facing. So what kind of risks are you facing, and what is the level of impact that risk can can cause if it eventually happens. Then you have risk assessment. So risk assessment is risk analysis is under risk assessment, because risk assessment is that you still identify that particular risk, you analyze the risks, and you evaluate the risk. Evaluating the risk is like putting numbers to it. So is it a risk that can occur often? Is it a risk that can occur once in a while? And all of those kind of things. So coming down to security control, so we have different types of security controls. We have technical controls, we have legal controls, we have administrative controls, we have managerial controls. So when we say technical controls, we are saying using technical things like just like we have here, like firewalls, have CCTVs, and all of those technologies. Then you have legal controls. So legal controls is compliance. So you have to have you have to comply to a regulatory requirement, and for contract, there has to be a contractual requirement also, and obligations, and all of those things. Then speaking to administrative, So everybody in an organization will have to have a structure on how they do things. So there must be an administrative control which can come in the place of which can come in the form of policies, can come in the form of segregation of duties and processes of approval of a function and all of those things. Then managerial control can be training your uh, training your staff, being able to perform risk assessments, being able to perform internal audits, and all of those things. So we also have a different way of classifying security controls. So we can classify security controls in preventive, corrective, than detective, although there is one more which is deterrent. Yeah, deterrent is kind of a yeah, I'll explain that in a bit. So preventive, you are trying to control, you're trying to control uh, the occurrence of the incident, controlling it in a way that it's you, if it's so possible to avoid it, for it not to happen, it is preventive. So if you have something that let's say a fire alarm system. So a fire alarm system, okay, no, fire alarm is detective. So if you have a system that can, so someone saying something, was that a mistake? Right. Okay. All right, let's continue. So detective is a control that can is a control that can what's it called now? Sorry, give me a second. Uh that can detect and identify a kind of identify the the indications of that particular event. So corrective is trying to, okay, the event corrective always comes when the event has occurred and you are trying to correct it. You're trying to correct it to get back to business as usual. So we also have deterrent. Deterrent can be defined as something that would deter somebody from performing a particular act. So if deterrent systems can be like CCTVs. So CCTVs, someone that wants to commit a particular crime and he sees that, oh, there's CCTV here. There's CCTV here. Oh, if I do this thing, they will catch me. So it's better for me not to even try it because of they will catch me if I try to do anything funny. So yeah, so this ends our section one. Sorry, Mercy, do we take questions now or do we take questions after the three sessions?
We'll take it at the end of the course.
Oh, right. Okay, that's great. That's great. I'll be moving over to the section two. We're moving over to the section two of our training. Just give me a second. Okay. So section two. So in section two, we'll be talking about the ISO family, and we'll still anyway. Let's continue. Right. Let me share my screen so we can all see what I'm looking at. Okay, hope you can see my screen. All right, so section two we'll be talking about, we've had an overview of cybersecurity already, so I'm going to jump that. So we'll be talking about the guideline for internet security. So guideline for internet security under ISO is placed in ISO 27032. So we'll be looking at ISO 27032. So let me quickly go to that. All right, let me just do a run through. Let me just do a run through of what we just spoke about. Just do a run through of what we just spoke about. Then we've talked about what cyberspace is. So cyberspace is a virtual environment where you can do all kinds of your internet computation and all of that. So we said, mentioned that it's managed by individuals, technology, IoTs, and all of those. So we also spoke about cybersecurity, what cybersecurity is, a combination of technical, procedural, and human focus me- um, methods or measures to mitigate threats and protect your digital assets. So this can be done through the use of detection systems like firewall, IPS, IDS, encryption, access control, regularly updating your softwares. So this is just a pictorial representation of what we just spoke about. So this is what we'll be talking about in this section two. Section two, we'll be talking about the ISO 27000 family. So ISO 27000 family is we have the vocabulary, which we regard as 27,000. So sorry, give me a second. Yeah. So 27,000 is the body, and we have for requirements for the things that an ISO for the things that an organization must implement. We'll have 27,006, which talks about organization providing audit and certification of of an information security management system. So we have 27,001, which is internet management system itself. We'll have 27,701, which is privacy information management system. Then talking about the general guides will have 27,002. These ones just provide guidelines to implementing a good 27,001, a good information management system. So we have 27,002, which gives the guideline on internet security controls. 27,003, which gives a guideline on information security management system. You have 27,004, which gives a monitoring and evaluation analysis measurements guideline. We'll have 27,005, which gives information security risk management guideline. Then we have 27,032, which is what we're talking about, which is a guideline on cybersecurity. Then all of those and all of those and all of those. So let's get into more of the detail. So here we have 27,000. So 27,000 provides the basic concept and the vocabulary that is needed to implement a to implement an ISMS. So whenever I say ISMS, what I mean is internet security or information security management system. And we have 27,001. 27,001 are the requirements for ISMS. So 27,001 has clauses and controls. So where clauses are the must-have and controls are based on your function as an organization. So I have 2771 which talks about privacy. So how your data should be processed, who should collect your data, how your data should be collected, and what happens after the data is no longer needed falls under privacy information management system. So we have 27006. 27006 talks about specific requirements for organization or the organization auditing and certifying an ISMS, just like uh, panoramic panoramic synergy enterprises. Then we have 27002. 27002 we have that takes care of the code of practice for management of internet security. We have 27003. 27003 provides a more detailed explanation and guidance into the code of conduct. Then have 27004. 27004 talks about the guideline intended to assist an organization to evaluate the internet security performance and effectiveness of ISMS in order to fulfill the entirety of 27001 requirements. So we have 27005, which provides guidelines for internet security management, risk management rather, then 27,032, which talks about the guideline on cybersecurity, covering the baselines of cybersecurity practices for stakeholders in cyberspace. 27,011 talks about providing guidelines to support implementation of internet security controls. Have 27799, which provide guidelines for organizational internet security standards and internet security management practices and all of that. So let's just give a brief history of 27,032. 27,032 actually started off as 27. The previous standard, the previous version was 2012, but it was recently reviewed. So the 2023 version is out, and it contains quite a number of guidelines that can be used to uh, secure the environment of your organization. So for the scope of this training, we'll be stopping at the introduction to it. So that ends our section 2. So going further to section 3, let me stop sharing and share section 3 so we can quickly wrap up. Going further to section 3. Pam, pam, pam. Give me a second. Mhm. Okay. Right. So section 3 will be talking about a guide into uh, NIST cybersecurity framework. So what do I mean by NIST cybersecurity framework? We'll talk about that very soon. Introduction to it, what is it, the benefits, the overview, the functions, the frameworks, the profile, and how to establish a risk management system based on NIST framework. So give me a second. Right. So introduction to NIST cybersecurity framework. So yes, we've already introduced what a digital landscape is. We've explained we've explained we've explained the reason why we should what's it called, the reason why we should implement cybersecurity space and all of that, implement the cybersecurity framework in our in our environment and all of that. So reason being that number one thing is we have people that are ready to use our information for that have malicious um, intent. So we need to be able to protect our environment, and we have these threats have these threats that are not only targeted towards individuals but also organizations, even governments. So what exactly is NIST cybersecurity framework? So NIST is just an acronym of National Institute of Standard and Technology. So this is a non-regulatory organization. So what they do is that they provide guidelines. They don't force you to implement the guidelines. They just rather not force, rather they don't mandate you to implement the guidelines. They only just tell you, okay, this can help your organization. So it's out there. So you can be able to add this into your organization cybersecurity posture in order to have a better in order to have a better cybersecurity practice. So um, the benefits of this is that anyway, we've been talking about the benefits for a while now. It offers a number of advantages, so which includes threat awareness. So you need to be able to know what kind of threats can affect you as an organization, as a person. You need to be able to it also offers an advantage of risk management, uh, incident response capability, and among all others. So the framework is based on risk assessment. So it can help you prioritize the cybersecurity risks that applies to you, and also align the cybersecurity activities with your business objectives. So a lot of organizations look out for risks that is not theirs. Look out for risks that is not theirs. What I mean by they look out for risks that is not theirs is that you look out, just like let's um take for example someone that is working in an IT support firm. So what the IT support does is that it makes sure that the internet connectivity is up, make sure that the firewall is active, and the organization is now looking out for a kind of risk that does not apply to them. Something like looking out for uh, uh, just on top of my head now, making sure that the there is no radiation in the organization. Just on top of my head, that's the example that just came in. So something like that, that's risk. Yeah, it might affect you as an organization, but in a very minimal level. So prioritizing it can just be a priority misuse. So making sure that you align your cybersecurity risks to your potential your business or objectives rather. So this cybersecurity framework is built on industry best practices, and it is reviewed almost every time. She reviews almost every time to be able to accommodate um, the latest processes in cybersecurity, and this helps organization be in good standing of their cybersecurity posture. Right. So the cybersecurity framework overview. So give me a second. So NIST cybersecurity framework was designed with the intent that businesses and other organizations will use this assessment of risks uh, or rather to guide the use of uh, rather it was developed with an assessment of risks businesses face on a daily. So this will help them use the framework in a very cost effective way. So you're not going to be implementing something that does not really concern you as a business. So the framework is divided into three parts. So here we have the core, we have the implementation tiers, and we have the profile. So the core, The core is just a set of activities, outcomes, and references that detail approaches to the aspects of cybersecurity. Then we have the implementation tiers. So the implementation tiers is just maturity level. So what level are you in when you talk about your cybersecurity risks, cybersecurity posture? Where are you? Then your profile is more like a gap analysis of where you are and where you need to be. So yeah, recently um hmm, sorry, this is a mistake. It's supposed to be 2.0 there, not 3.0. Sorry, excuse me for that. Let me quickly correct that. It's not supposed to be 3.0. Give me some second. Give me a second. A second. Right. Right. Okay. So recently it's the framework was reviewed. The framework was reviewed from uh, 1.1 to 2.0. So I think it was in February, was thereabout that February or March, that 2.0 was officially adopted. And so we're just going to look at a few changes that was made on the version 1.1. So here we have the common name like cybersecurity. Before the name was Framework for Improving Critical Infrastructure Cybersecurity. So now it was just now changed to Cybersecurity NIST Cybersecurity Framework. So the scope of the framework before uh, was focused on the scope of the framework was updated to reflect the use by all organizations. So the original emphasis was just on the critical infrastructure application. So now everything it is the scope was now broadened to accommodate everything that has to do with organizational data. So the 1.1 was focused on US infrastructure, but the recent one has been broadened and opened to accommodate everything international and all of that. The framework profile guidance was also reviewed and expanded to provide guidelines on the steps to use the profile and how and the purpose the profile can serve to you. So the most important change is that a new function was added. A new function before the 1.1 functions used to just be 5. So now 2.0 is now 6. A new function was added, which is govern. So govern takes care of anything uh, that covers organizational concepts or context rather. So risk management strategies, supply chain, and all of that. So now let's take a look at the core. Let's take a look at the core. So hmm, the core, just like I said, contains functions, categories, subcategories, and informative references. So yeah, so this cybersecurity framework, the documentation is free online, so you can just go to NIST environment and download it, and yeah, you can download it and have a read through with the knowledge that you get from here. I'm pretty sure that it will be very very much relatable when you're reading through. So the framework, just like I said, contains functions, contains categories, it contains subcategories, and it contains informative references. So when we say functions, what we mean is just best practices, right? So functions gives an overview of security protocols of best practices. So functions are not intended to be procedural steps, but are to be performed concurrently or continuously concurrently and continuously to form an operational culture that addresses a dynamic cybersecurity risk. So what all this grammar that I just spoke means is that function is not something that you do once, it's something that is continual. So you not just say, oh, we've done risk assessment and we are not doing it again. It's something that should be planned, maybe quarterly uh, or biannually, or anyhow, anyhow you want to do it, anyhow that your organization can afford. But the thing has to be done on a regular basis. So there are 6 core functions. So we have govern, we have identify, we have protect, we have detect, we have respond, and we have recover. So for those of us that are familiar with MITRE ATT&CK framework, so it's almost the same. So we have govern. Govern is talking about, just like we have a governor. A governor sits on every process that occurs in the state. So govern establish and monitors the organizational cybersecurity risk management strategies, also the expectations and the policy. So govern cuts across everything, right? So it cuts across your identification, it cuts across your protection, your detection, response, and recovery. It cuts across everything. So for you to for you to be able to carry out anything, there has to be a form of governance that you are adhering to. It could be policy governance, it could be procedural governance, it could be regulatory governance, or any kind of governance. So governance directs an understanding of the organizational context. So this means the establishment of the cybersecurity strategy, and also supply chain risk management, roles, responsibilities, um, authorities, and all of those other things. So it kind of gives an oversight of the cybersecurity strategy. So we have identify. So identify is functions that are focused on laying the groundwork of the effective cybersecurity program. So for you to be able to um, know what to do to create a strategy, you need to identify. Number one, you need to identify the software assets that are software hardware and software assets that are in your organization. You need to identify the business environments, including its roles in a supply chain. You need to identify who your vendors are and what your vendors do. So you need to identify the policies that relates to one or two of the processes that you have. You need to identify the assets vulnerabilities of that implement that ties to your assets. You need to identify the risk management strategy that can be used in risk assessment, and you need to identify, most importantly, you need to identify the risks that ties to your vendors. So speaking to protect, we have a function that outlines the appropriate safeguard that you need to implement for the development for the delivery of critical services. So critical services could include implementation protection for identity management and access control within the organization. It could be empowering your staff to be able to identify risk and also respond to such incidences. So it could be data uh, data security. It could be managing technology to ensure that the security and the resilience of your systems are intact. So that is protect. So go ahead to detect. So detect is crucial. Is very crucial, and it has activities that it can be able to help you to identify anomalies. So you make sure that anomalies are detected before the impact is carried out. So it helps you implement a continuous monitoring capabilities uh, to your cybersecurity facilities and implementation. So it also develops and tests the processes, procedures that that are involved in identify unauthorized entities. So an example of this, an example of this, it could be example of this could be your firewall, right? So your firewall can implementation of your firewall can help you identify when you have false traffic and all of those things. So then we go to respond. So once these abnormalities have been identified, you need to go to response. So response is just activities that act in case of an identified incident and supports the ability to contain the impact of that particular incident. So you can have activities like ensuring response planning process time are executed. So could be performing mitigation activities. It could be maintaining communication with internal and external stakeholders on the mitigation of activities. It could be implementation of improvement by incorporating lesson learned and all of that. Then we have recover. So we have recover. So recover talks about being able to get back to business as usual. So we have ensuring the organization implements a recovery planning processes. So it's not after something has done something uh, something like a very a very impactful incident idea of how to get back to business as usual based on what has been done and how, most importantly, communication, because the IT people, the organization at the large, and the cybersecurity guys. So there needs to be a synergy between the two of them, because of sometimes some people do not understand. Okay, do not visit this kind of sites. Do not click on certain pop-ups. Some people do not understand the usefulness of these things. So when there are communications between these two bodies, the impact, or rather the potential impact of those malicious processes will reduce. So the let's take a look at the functions and its categories. So when we talk about govern, we'll have categories like organizational context, have risk assessments or risk management strategy, we have roles and responsibilities, and lastly we have policies and procedures. So in govern, the organizational context, like what can affect the organization, the business objective of the organization, the internal and external stakeholders of the organization, all of this needs to be identified in govern. So risk management strategy, they will have to we'll talk about the risk treatment policies, the risk treatment procedures, and how all of that can be done. Then roles and responsibility, people need to know what they are doing in organizations. So for an organization to exist, that means the policy, there has to be a policy and an SOP on how that policy can be implemented. So we have identify. So when we talk about identify, we talk about asset management, we talk about business environment, talk about governance, as the risk assessment itself. So when we do risk assessment, we can be able to identify what kind of risks that the organization will face or is facing currently. So also do risk management. Risk management uh, strategies. So these risk management strategies can be borrowed from govern, and also being able to know who our vendors are and the risk that applies to our vendors. So we have protect. When we say protect, we're talking about identity management, knowing who is who, authentication, and access control. We'll have awareness and trainings. We'll have data security, being able to remove, so someone cannot delete uh, sensitive information on exchange and all of those things. So info protection and procedures, maintenance and protective technology. Then under detect, we have abnormally and continuous monitoring and detection processes. So under detect, we have our SIM. Have our SIM. What I mean by SIM is security, event, incidents, management. So we have so this technology is capable of tracking every activity uh, that happens in the organization, and also being able to implement a non-repeatable process, so someone cannot deny what he did. So we have respond. So respond, we have response planning, communication, analysis, mitigation, and improvement. There's always improvement for everything that happens. There has to be a lesson that was learned from it, because if there is no lesson that was learned from it, it is bound to happen again. So recover. So we have recover, we have recovery planning, improvement, and communication. So that's it. Let's jump over to implementation tiers. So implementation tiers talk about the maturity level at which the organization is at the moment. So we have tier one, which talks about the organization having an ad hoc cybersecurity approach. Then we have tier two, which is risk informed. So the organization have an intermediate level of awareness of risk management systems, of risk management practices rather. Then we have repeatable. The organization practice are formalized with regular updates and improvements. We have adaptive. So the organization uh, exhibits a proactive and evolving cybersecurity approach. So let's take a look at the detail of it. So in partial, which is tier one, which the organization has an ad hoc process of cybersecurity. So this is where they will do it today, they might not do it tomorrow. It is cybersecurity processes are implemented on an irregular level. So that's just it. So it could be that someone today will, okay, you can decide, oh, okay, I'm going home today. That means I'm going to log out from the server. I'm going to make sure that I clear my credentials from the server, so somebody cannot just log in after I leave. Then tomorrow, they're like, I'm too tired. Let it just remain there. I'll continue from where I stopped tomorrow. So that's an ad hoc way of doing things. So there is no regularity to it. So that is tier one. Tier two is that they are informed. There is a policy, there is a procedure on ground, there is a procedure, but it might not just be practiced. Everybody knows, okay, this thing is what we need to do, but there's no enforcement. There's no enforcement at all. So it might not really be practiced, but people know, people in the organization know that, okay, there's a particular policy that speaks to this. So repeatable. Repeatable is when there's a policy and the policy is implemented. So here we have the organizational risk management practices are formally approved and expressed as policy. So not just that it's expressed, there's an organization-wide approach to managing the cybersecurity risk. So the only thing here is that as as the organization depends on a reactive method of doing things. So something must happen first before policy comes out, and that it's a good place to be, but it's not the best place to be. So tier 4, which is adaptive. So adaptive talks about being able to be proactive. So you, before things, that there are structures that prevent things from happening. So this helps the organization. This helps the organization stay ahead of risk and other potential threats. So this brings us to profile. So just like I said, that profile is long and short of what profile is gap analysis. So the profile is an alignment of the functions, the category, the subcategories with the business requirements, with the business risk tolerance, with the business resources. So a profile will help you get a roadmap to reduce cybersecurity risk. So you'll be able to get an action plan. Be able to get an action plan. So profiles are split into two. So you have a current profile, which is as is, what the process that you are currently undergoing. Then you have the target profile. So the target profile is what you need to achieve, where you where sorry, give me a second. So target profile reviews a comparison of these two profiles reveals the gap that the organization needs to close for the for the cybersecurity profile to come up a bit. So this action plan, this the roadmap leads to creation of an action plan to be able to achieve the target profile. So steps on creating and using profiles. So first of all, there has to be a use case and a scope. There has to be something that you need this profile for. Then next thing is that you gather needed information. Then after that, you create current and target profiles. Then after that, you perform analysis of profile and you create an action plan. Then you implement this action plan and you update the profile. So it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. So implementing this cybersecurity framework, a risk management system or program, is that first of all, the first thing you need to do is you need to prioritize the risks that affects you as an organization and scope the environment that responds to that risk. Then you orientate, you that's you create you take stocks of your organization data, organization assets, to make sure that everything you need to do, it's everything that can be exposed is in the scope of what you're doing. Then you create a current profile, just like what we just did. So what we just talked about. So creating a current profile is like being able to pen down what applies to you, what the processes that you are currently undergoing, and how those processes uh, are managing risks at the present. Then the next thing is that you now conduct a risk assessment. So conduct a risk assessment on the current activities, on the current processes. Then after carrying out this risk assessment, the next thing is that you create what you need to achieve. Create a current profile, then analyze these two processes, then implement an action plan that comes out of this analysis of gaps. So that brings us to the end of our of our training for today. And yeah, I'll just bring back Mercy to the call. Mercy, are you still there?
Yes, I am here.
Hello, Mercy.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much,
Oh,
Justice. Any question, please? If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Okay. Do we have any question? Please, let's ask now. Okay. Okay, in the absence of none.
Hello?
Okay, please go ahead. Was someone talking? Okay, Justice, you have a question here, and the question says, what role does the NIST plan in the implementation? Did I get that right?
yeah. Sorry, whoever that asked that question, can you rephrase the question?
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm struggling to understand what you are talking about. But if it's having an implementation plan, what role does NIST play in implementation? So what NIST are you talking about? Are you talking about NIST cybersecurity framework or what? Please, if you can, please, if you can rephrase that question and ask it again. Thank you very much. Uh, oh, what role does NIST play in implement? Sorry, if you can unmute and ask your question properly. Yeah. All right. Richard. Richard, please. You can unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this amazing session. I will first say that I love your baritone voice. Thank you so much, sir. Then
Thank
my
you.
question is
Thank
this.
you
My
very much.
question is this, sir. I recently
Right.
came about something I've never heard it before from my brother. He said dark web. As a cybersecurity expert, can you like say a little about it and all these ethical hacking kind of things? I just want to, because I was new to them and I was like, when he was talking, I was just looking at him in amazement. So I don't know if you can just say a little about them, sir. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, that's great. That's a very great question. Okay, when you talk about dark web, yeah. So dark web is just like the other side of your internet. So your internet is the difference between the internet that you see that's your Google search and dark web is that you you have to know what you're looking for. Like on Google now, who is Richard? You see different links to article about Richard and all of those things that make, or maybe the people, maybe the projects Richard have done, the things, the people that are called Richard, maybe links to Facebook profiles that somebody that's named Richard and all of that. So dark web is a place. It's mostly for cybersecurity analysis, though. It's mostly used for threat hunting. So you're going to look for uh, compromised credentials to check whether your organizational credentials are among those credentials. So it's more like a a there is no such links to it, so it can only be accessed through a web browser called tor, and it does not have the site does not have a regular domain name, like, okay, like you can have www.facebook.com. It's always something, the domain name are always very almost like it's scrambled. Then you have onions, dot onion rather. So anytime you see a domain name that has onion, you know that that is a dark web URL. So it can only be accessed through specific web browsers like Tor and or the kind. But I'll really advise you as a beginner to stay away from dark web, because of you end up seeing, you end up maybe compromising your own IP, and inviting any kind of malware to yourself. So it's a place, just to put all of this in a nutshell, is a place that you can get literally anything, anything you can, from the basic services to the most violent services. You can find all of those things on dark web, just that is a place that it is not indexed. So you need to know the particular URL that you need to go to, type it in and go there directly. So if you don't know the particular URL, you can never get there. That is why, maybe because of the lack of navigation, then I say, okay, this is classified under dark web. I don't know if I answered your question, Richard. Richard, are you still there?
He says thank you.
Oh, okay, great. All right,
All
Alo,
right.
can see
Okay.
your hand is up. I'll just take Alo and Victor. Then I don't know if okay, Victor. Okay, Victor was the one that was asking the question. Alo, please, you can speak.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for such an enlightening session. Okay, I noticed that we mentioned quite a bit of frameworks, right? The requirements and the general guidelines, as well as NIST. But let's assume that I am a complete beginner and then I'm going through all these standards. I know that, yes, they have quite a bit in common, especially for risk assessment. So I'm just wondering, how to make the best use of them. If I'm using, let's say, ISO 27001 for the implementation part to ensure that, yes, my controls and all are according to the standard, then can I just use NIST as, a way to conduct maturity assessment for my organization? So
Yeah,
27001 I
that's
want to
very
implement
that's a,
maturity.
okay. All right, that's a very great question. Now the thing there is that different frameworks, right, have their different strengths. Okay, so if you can implement 27001, if you can implement 27001, 27001, it has its strengths when you come to the general information security. So if your scope of implementation is on general organization, from the physical from the physical from the physical, what's it called now, uh medium to digital medium, and all of those things, if that is what is in your scope, then 27001 is the best framework for you to use. If you are more focused on cybersecurity environment, if you are more focused on cybersecurity environment, sorry, digital environment, so you have most of your sensitive data is digitalized, or it's in a digital format, then you can implement NIST framework. But that does not mean that this framework cannot be implemented together. An organization can decide to implement the two together to enable to get a good maturity assessment. So while the 27001 will be more focused on the information security side, NIST can take care of the digital side. Then you also have PCI DSS. An organization can also implement PCI DSS as their security platform. So this is where you implement. PCI DSS has strengths when you talk about card data. So it has to be not necessarily has to be an organization that has a card processing data. It could just be an organization that can treat their core processes as the card data and implement PCI. So it's just it's preference. It's preference. So someone was reminding me of what I was trying to say, least privilege. Thank you, Alo. It's just preference of just preference based on the scope that you are concentrating on. I don't know if that answers your question, Alo. Does that answer your question? You can type on the chat box if it did. Okay, yes, it does. All right. Uju, I'm coming to you. Just hold on. Victor, please can you unmute and speak so we can quickly round up?
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the lecture so far. I don't know if you can hear me. Victor speaking.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you very, very well, Victor.
Okay, just want to be sure. I was asking how, in implementing these strategies and securing your cyberspace, how does NIST comes in to help? That is my question, please. Thank you. What role?
Anyway, thank you. Yeah, I think the answer to that question is just what we've been talking about all this while. So what role can NIST play in securing your environment, in securing your services? So NIST framework can help you identify the threats that are common to you, that are common to your organization. NIST framework can help you detect. NIST framework can help you detect when there is an anomaly. When there is an anomaly in your environment, NIST framework can. It's just the entirety of the training that we've been doing. So NIST framework can help you do all of those things. So when you take a look at the NIST function, then you will see that there are certain activities on the NIST framework that if you even if it doesn't even have to be an organization, if you as a person implement what's it called, if you as a person implement um those functions or activities, you will be in a better place when it comes to your security. I hope that answers your question. Before we take the last question and give the floor back to our organizers, does that answer your question? Right. Okay. All right. So the last question I will answer will be: would you? I don't know. If we have more time, Mercy. But I think the last question that is here would be: would you? Would you said how about HIPAA? So HIPAA is a framework that implements that concentrates on health details of patients, but HIPAA is not really implemented in Nigeria. So there are some security frameworks that are not implemented everywhere, right? So security frameworks like HIPAA, HIPAA is concentrated on getting uh, protecting the health details of patients. So it's the full meaning of it is a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So it's just a framework that hospitals need to abide by to make sure that the details and the data of their patients are secured. So another one when we talk about when we talk about data protection and all of those things, we'll have another one, which is GDPR. GDPR is not implemented in Nigeria, although Nigeria have their own data protection act, which is NDPR, so, or NDPA now. So you have to abide by the requirements of your environment. So HIPAA is mostly implemented in the US, and GDPR is mostly implemented in the European countries, and some African countries implement it though. So yeah, that is just that. Would you, I hope that answers your question. Messi, yeah, I think I'm done. Alo, your hand is still up. I hope that's a mistake. Messi, please.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Justice. Please, can we applaud our trainer for this afternoon? He has done justice to ISO 27032. Please, let's give him a round of applause on the chat box in appreciation. We are not taking any more questions, please. We are really running out of time, please. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Kayode. Effiong, please, we are no longer taking question. All right. All right. Thank you, Justice, for that. Thank you. You've done justice to the. Thank you, Christian. Okay, without further waste of time, we will be going on to take the practical session of Tableau tool. Okay, so the trainer that was taking the class before now will be handling that. Please, let's welcome him. Okay, Fion, we will take your question at the end of the class, please. All right, thank you so much. Okay, Vincent, please take it off from here.
Please hold on. Mercy, please. I might not be on the call to the end of the training. Can I quickly hear what Effiong has to say? So before Vincent comes on,
okay,
because I might just be dropping on very soon. Yeah, Effiong, please go ahead. Please make it very brief as possible. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right. Okay. Oh, you were just you were just at the nick of time. Good afternoon. I can hear you very well. Yeah, please make it very brief.
For Messi,
Make it very brief.
I asked if today is our last lecture day, and she has not responded. I've asked that question several times. Because we're supposed to run today.
All right. Okay.
Right.
All right. No problem.
All right. Let me quickly answer.
Right. Thank you very much. I guess Messi.
Thank you, everyone, for the question. All right. So, like Mercy explained from the beginning, because of the network challenges with our one of our trainers, Vincent, we were not supposed to have Mercy. Can you all hear me? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So because of the network glitches we've experienced from the end of our trainer Vincent, so we were not supposed to have a class on the second to last Saturday before the graduation. But then we're going to have a class, which would be the last class for next week. All right. So the last class for day 11 will take place next weekend. And then the following, the 31st of August, will be the graduation. So please be in class. We would also remind everybody on the WhatsApp group, please be in class and let's take the final class. And interestingly, Doctor himself will be taking the ISO, the last ISO, as well as the last class for business analysis next Saturday. All right, so please do be in class next Saturday. Thank you. Mercy, you can go ahead now, or rather Vincent, I think you can go ahead with the practical.
All right. Can we hear me?
Yes, I.
Okay. I hope the network allows me finish up on time. Okay. Well, we're looking at the tool for the business, the BA topic we took earlier. I'm sorry I wasn't able to finish up, but I hope the materials will do justice to that. So we're looking at Tableau. I don't know if I'm still being heard. Okay, we're looking at Tableau. Let me try and share my screen. Uh, um, software that
Hello, Vincent. Are you still having issues with your network connection?
um,
Hi, Vincent. Can you hear me? Oh. Okay, so I think he's still having issues with his connection. Okay, so I think we should go on a break now. We won't be long. Should go on a break, right? Oh, Vincent, please, we are going on a break right now. I'm not sure your network is allowing you. We are sorry about that. Everyone, please, we are sorry about that. So we'll be going on a break right about now. We'll return at exactly 1:30. All the documents, all the slides will be sent to the group, to the group. All right? Thank you so much for your understanding. Please, let's do well to return at 1:30. Okay?